Good morning, my friends, or almost good afternoon, really, on this Monday. I'm Marshall Burtcher, and I help codependents discover happiness after codependency and narcissistic abuse by helping them heal their trauma, discover who they are, and create happy relationships. So that's what I'm about. So if you're new to me, welcome. I'm excited to have you here and to contribute to your healing. Before we get started, I need to share this out to the community. The community is your safe haven here on the internet, where you can find support, you can find understanding, you can find tools and guidance, and you can find shelter from the nightmare you're enduring, either post, narcissistic abuse, or if you're working yourself out of it right now. So the link is above on Facebook. It's below on YouTube, and I'm going to share it out there. And if you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Guys, thank you for helping me. I've crossed the 1,000 subscriber mark. I'm really, really grateful for that. And if you're on Instagram, click the link in my bio and connect with us here on Facebook and on YouTube. Get more support, more tools that work, and training that gets you down the road beyond codependency and back to your happiness. So let me make sure this is doing its job, because it should be. So today we're going to be talking about conflict that creates intimacy. So in 6 days, we're starting the relationship strategy. It's my approach to creating compatible, fulfilling, happy relationships, and it's designed specifically for survivors of narcissistic abuse. It is the only relationship system out there that takes into account that history and then guides you into creating a fundamentally happy, compatible relationships. And it's a very structured technical course that includes both healing and discovery and application and expertise in making a relationship work for you, not from a forced perspective or forced sense of thing, but actually because you're compatible. Today we're going to talk about how I approach conflict in this model of relating, because really compatibility is the point. We got to be compatible in our energy. We got to be compatible in our intentions. Our communication needs to make sense. It needs to be compatible. Our intimacy needs to be that way. Companionship, our play, how we do support, and how we do conflict. Because conflict is where most relationships are going to fail. They're going to fail in this idea because usually conflict is put into a war state. Like, I've got to battle this out. I've got to make somebody wrong and make the other person right. I have to control things. It's a power dynamic. It's a drama cycle. And it's really about needs and wants. See, in my approach, there's 4 components to a relationship. That's what you want. That's how you want it. That's who you're having the want with. And that creates a result. Now, if you've got incompatibility in those things, you're going to have a lot of conflict. That result's going to be conflict that doesn't resolve. It's going to be conflict that goes in circles, round and round and round and round and round. It's going to be conflict that escalates. It's going to be conflict that tears the relationship apart, damages or completely destroys trust or intimacy or vulnerability. It isn't going to create conflict that unites, that creates clarity, that creates understanding, that fundamentally creates intimacy. So I'm a little weird this way. I'm a little different when it comes to conflict. I look at conflict as an act of building trust, as an act of building intimacy and vulnerability. Because if we can't be different, if we can't have a complaint, if we can't have a concern, if we can't have a request for something to be different, if we can't receive that from the persons we're having a relationship with, we can't have intimacy. We can't have connection. We can't have understanding. You can't have a relationship that works. And so my approach to conflict is to understand fundamentally what is wanted and how it's wanted. Okay? And that's on your part and their part. Both need to show up with a sense of trust, a sense of positive regard towards each other that allows this vulnerability to be exposed and to be seen and to be understood, to be valued. Because that's where the intimacy comes in. That's where love and care show up in a relationship, is when we have a difference. And we have a difference about what we want or how we want it. And a lot of times what I find is that most people want the same thing. It's how they want it is where the conflict shows up. And for a long time in my approach to relationships, it was the traditional concept of, well, let's meet somebody and let's make it work. Let's try to force this out. I had no idea I had a conflict style. I had no idea that I had a conflict compatibility problem with some of the people I had relationships with. I had no idea how to have even safe, healthy, intimate conflict. Because I had been raised that you fight and somebody wins. Somebody's got the power, somebody has to win, we got to control things. But with this approach, it's more about understanding, how does conflict work for me? What do I need in conflict to feel safe, to feel heard, to feel seen? How does that show up? And then when I'm out dating people or building relationships with people, I watch to see how they show up in their conflict. And that tells me whether or not we have compatible conflict styles. I'll tell you guys, my friends, that this eliminated enormous amounts of problems for me once it clicked. Because I started to realize that with some of my past relationships, we fundamentally didn't fight the same way. We couldn't understand each other. That was it. That was the end of it. But when I started to understand what I needed in conflict and what they needed in conflict so that we could feel understood and clear, that we could build a bridge or at least admit that we don't agree and let that be safe, a lot of the big issues, the drama went away. Instead, there was more capacity to receive where the person was at. There was more capacity and safety in me to share what mattered to me because I trusted that it mattered to them, that it was valuable to them. And I'll tell you, conflict these days is so much simpler because now it's about hearing and understanding, valuing, and then communicating that back. And if I have something that I'm willing or not willing to give, I communicate. It's like, I understand that you want this. I can't give it to you, though. I'm not able to. I don't have the ability to do that right now. I don't have the capacity. It's not something I'm going to choose right now. That is acceptable. See, conflict doesn't have to make everybody happy. What it does need to do is allow everybody to feel understood and seen and then respected in their particular capacities and limits that show up in their world. Now, if you don't know what these things are, how on earth can you show up in relationship in a conflict and make it work right? Because these are not things I was taught. Even in my training in relationships, I wasn't taught these things. A lot of times relationship systems are like, well, find out what you want, write down your preferences, here's how you fight, here's conflict, here's how you communicate. Very generalized things, but nothing real specific as to what do I want in a conflict? How do I want to be treated? Well, these are questions I ask you. What makes conflict safe for you? What leads to you feeling understood? What behaviors do they do? What kind of language would be used? How would they demonstrate care for you in conflict? How would you demonstrate care for them in conflict? See, we're getting into the deeper experiential or the experience of relating with these kinds of questions. And they're kind of broad and generalized, but that's because you're the one who needs to discover your answer. I can't give that to you. It's within you. It's part of discovering who you are in this process, right? When we really get in contact with this experiential or experience-based reality that we're seeking in a relationship, this becomes a lot easier to find people who are compatible with us because they're doing the things that make sense to us. They're doing the things that we can understand, that we can relate to, that we can trust, that we can work with. This is how we build sustainable, happy relationships. It's really on compatibility. And compatibility, it's going to include chemistry, it's going to include passion, it's going to include attractiveness. More so, it's going to include the fundamentals of how you handle conflict, how communication functions, how attachment functions, your availability, your trust, how your needs and wants, what they are, how they get met, what kind of capacities and limitations you have, how you use power in the relationship, things like that. This is the gritty of it. And so when it comes to conflict, you need to understand what matters to you in it and what doesn't. So like for me, yelling is a no-go. I have a nervous system that does not respond well to yelling. I'll just shut down and leave. I'm done. So that is something that I communicate to people I have a relationship with. Do not yell. They might be, some people I've been with are yellers. Like, I can't do it. Sorry. That is an absolute limit. Usually it turns into a deal breaker if the other person's unwilling or unable to not yell at me. A name calling's another one. People being upset actually doesn't bother me. They can be angry and frustrated and disappointed. I'm like, well, I get it. Yeah. You be angry at me and be angry at the thing. Fine. Cool. That is not an activating thing for me. I really like direct, clear, and simple communication. That is a must in my world, especially with conflict and communication. I need to feel understood and valued in conflict. And the way I feel understood and valued is when the person can restate to me what I said and how they see what I said. I want to know that they understand what I needed or wanted in that thing. I also want to know that they can acknowledge how I felt in the thing, because this is what I want to contribute to them too. See, most people give what they want in return. And this is where this love language concept comes into play. It's like, oh, well, if I give gifts because I want gifts. A lot of times that's what people are doing. It's this subconscious mirroring they're seeking. Well, that's what we're looking for here in conflict, is who can have a relationship with that mirrors conflict in a healthy way to me, so that I can understand them, they can understand me. Man, life gets so much simpler when you have these kinds of compatibilities identified and they're operating in your relationship. This is what creates sustainability, because love and attraction and chemistry are important, they're valuable, but they don't determine compatibility. They don't determine sustainability. They just determine the euphoric chemical excitement of it all. But that doesn't mean it's sustainable. It doesn't mean it can last. And this is what we're driving for here in the relationship strategy, is to get deep into the understanding of what you want and need and how you want and need it, so that you can identify and connect with people. You can connect even with places and things with this that fit you. Because that fit is what produces happiness. That's what produces joy and contentment and ease, space and safety. That's the goal here. So in conflict deserves to be safe. Conflict deserves to be understanding. Conflict deserves to be respectful and kind, and it should have integrity, and it should operate with the 8 relationship bare minimums of respect of boundaries, reliability in how they respond and show up, and how you respond and show up, accountability for actions and choices on all parties, privacy, whatever's private and maintained is preserved and protected, right? And then integrity. You keep in your word, they keep in their word. Are we taking accountability when we make mistakes? Acceptance, non-judgment, kindness and warmth in regards to them. A positive regard. So we're not putting ill intent on people. We're like, oh no, you did this and it hurt, but I know it's not, malicious. You're here to, we're just growing. We're just human beings. So we're acknowledging the innocence of each other in mistakes and problems. And ultimately, empathy. We care about how the other person feels. They demonstrate that they care about how we feel. That's the structure of safe conflict, because now we can build trust and vulnerability and understanding. And then maybe even cooperation or compromise, or build a bridge or something, or just disagree. Because, some relationships just have things they never actually resolve, but it's not detrimental to the relationship, because it's not like one of those deal breakers for them. And I see that a lot with religion and politics and relationship. Those are places that exists. Guys, conflict is where intimacy is grown. Conflict is where love is, in a way, hardened. It's solidified. It grows in its trust. Conflict is one of the most important places in a relationship for us to meet the other person and to allow ourselves to be met, to be cared for, to be valued. So conflict requires safety, it requires space, it requires accountability. But it also requires that you know what you want, how you want it, and what really, really matters for you in conflict, so that you can have relationships with people who have a similar conflict style that works for you. That's the magic there. If you want to dive deeper into this, you want to create relationships that bring you joy and that are sustainable, that you get to keep in your life. So now you don't have to be living in the fear of them leaving or you losing them and not being able to build other relationships. The relationship strategy was designed for you. We start in 6 days. The enrollment link is above on Facebook, below on YouTube. Join us. Jump in, and over the course of 16 to 20 classes, I'm going to train you how to make this happen in your world. Because really, fundamentally, it's all going to break down into an experience. And it's going to be somatic. It's going to be something you feel, and you're going to be able to identify it in other people, places, and things around you. You'll be able to choose them and experience for yourself the reality that you can be loved with ease, with kindness, with safety. And that the real work in a relationship is about understanding each other. It's not about fixing anything. So, if you're looking for a relationship where you feel seen, valued, and loved, the relationship strategy is for you. So check out the link above. Enroll. We start this Sunday, 10 a.m. my time. It's taught twice on class days, so 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. Mountain Time. If you have questions about that, feel free to hit me up. You can either PM me, you can go to answers.freetheself.com, you can email a question, or you can show up to Community Answers that are on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. MST and talk to me live, and we can get you answers and point you in the right direction. Appreciate you guys. Remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping. I look forward to seeing you in the course, and I look forward to seeing you online, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.